We're going to watch Dan Blocher, who is the head of the famous Capital Projects Department of Trimet, talk about the opening of the Milwaukee Light Rail and what's going on and how that whole thing's going to be handled. Most people know that I'm not a big fan of this. However, lots of people are big fans of this, so I'm putting this up. And it's interesting when you look at it from a blogger, a transit blogger point of view. It's an interesting project. It's fairly complicated, and it's of interest. And people that are interested in the project will probably appreciate hearing what he has to say here. This is from the January board meeting. I'm way behind on my board meetings, but I'm slowly watching them, and they're always current, so it doesn't matter which board meeting I'm watching because the information there is still of value. It doesn't matter how long it takes me to put it up. So here's Dan Blocher giving us the scoop on the Milwaukee Light Rail.
To thank you for your perseverance. I know it's been a very long meeting for you, and I'll try to go through this relatively quickly. So this slide here shows where we stand as of today, 226 days until our grand opening celebration. And I'm happy to say that our work is on track to achieve that. Just to organize my comments, I've developed this basically 3 parallel work streams that lead to the grand opening on September 12th. We have one series of activities for project delivery, another for operational readiness, and then a third for our opening events. And all these work streams are connected and shared across numerous divisions, but I think it'll help to just relay the highlights of where we are in each one. Starting with project delivery then, this is made up of several components. The basic infrastructure completion is going extremely well. West and bridge segments are complete. The Park Avenue Garage is complete. Ruby Junction is complete, but for some additional work we added to at a meeting you had several months ago where we gave a change order to replace the throat switches, which had reached their useful life, and with the increased traffic we need to replace those. The east segment will be substantially complete in just about another month. Again, there will be some follow-on work with that contract as well. But really front and center is our systems installation. That's been very active as they place the electric overhead wires, the signaling cables, the communications, all the work that makes our trains run. And they're going gangbusters, and as Neil mentioned before, we achieved a major milestone last week when we ran our first LRV train over, really all the way from PSU through the west segment over the new bridge to the first station on the east side. So all 3 major civil segments were involved in that, and it went just great. So there's a picture of the train as it's passing by with the Mount Hood in the background, very artistic. Thanks for our communications folks. The other thing that Systems is working on is delivery of the vehicles. So we're buying 18 in total. We'll have them all complete by this July. 6 of them are here so far. And you might actually see them. So far, they come in individual cars, and then we join them in pairs of 2. And the first thing that happens is they do some testing at Ruby Junction to what's called static testing. And then the next thing is, after they're paired into, we take them out on the existing system for some dynamic testing. And the first pair has already been doing that. Beyond that, then, they go through burn-in process. So the dynamic testing happens in off hours at night. And here's a picture of one of the new vehicles. This happens to be at Rockwood Station, where they're checking clearances at the station. But then once we get to burn-in, we do that during revenue hours. So they just run around on the alignment without passengers, and they have to accumulate a certain number of miles to show that they're ready to go. So this first pair will begin that work next week, and then the second pair will move into this nighttime dynamic testing. So it's moving along. A good picture there. You can see the vehicle, and you can see how bright and open the interior is. I think it's really a fine product.
Will these cars actually go into service before the opening of the...
Yes, they will. Yes, they will.
So, yeah.
So yeah, we don't have our vehicles assigned to a given line, so we just need this additional 18 to run the new system, but once they're ready to go, we'll start using them. Finally, on the delivery side, we have all the verification and testing to do. You've been briefed on this before, particularly on safety certification. That's all going well. I think you've seen this graph before, which shows each of the various categories of safety certification items and our progress. So the blue goes from bottom to top, so eventually there'll be all blue bars. But that's all on track. And you can see the majority of the work that's left in that is in the vehicles, and that's because, you know, each vehicle and each vehicle pair has a whole series of safety certification items. So those will just be happening as the vehicles move through the testing process. This is a picture of another vehicle down at South Waterfront Station. So lots and lots of testing happening right now. And I was just pointing out that integrated testing is really the second step of testing. When we build these systems, each individual system has its own testing. So we test some of the civil features, we test the signals by themselves, we test the communication system by itself. But integrated testing is where we test to see that they all work together. And of course that's a much more complicated element. Let me move on to the second work stream then, that's operational readiness. This is the portion where our operations division puts themselves ready to begin the passenger service. This has been going on for years, literally, as we have been, for every new line, we require new employees, both on the operations side and on the maintenance side. And there's a 3-year apprenticeship program on the maintenance side, so we are well into that. Those staff members are already coming on board and going through the training programs. Just looking ahead, the bus operator training begins March 15th. That's where we teach all of our bus operators how they're going to drive through the new busway that'll take them over the Tillicum Crossing and the 3 lines that will do that. And of course, every operator has to know how to do that. So it's a major program to train all of them so they become familiar with this new alignment. Shortly after that, we begin emergency responder training. We've established a number of processes so that people are prepared to react in the event of an incident. And then finally, rail operator training begins June 1st. And of course, that's the entire line, not just the busway on the Tillicum Crossing. So all those activities are underway. It's a huge amount of work. Our hats are off to the operations team for the amount of work they're putting into this, and also all the support they're giving us on the civil side that we're doing. So for example, to run that train across, we had some last-minute challenges, and they really stepped up and helped us out and make sure we were able to run that system. So it's been a great collaboration. Looking ahead then, you were briefed several months ago about the outreach program we'll do just to have people become familiar with the alignment. So the plans are in place, and we'll begin that later in the summer. One of the last steps we do will occur on August 30th when we begin what we call simulated revenue service. That's where the trains will actually run on the new alignment, following their schedules, stopping at every station. They just won't carry passengers. And so that's to make sure that, you know, for a couple weeks we're running as if we really were carrying passengers to bubble out any last little challenges that might arise. And then finally service on September 12th. The third work stream is really just getting underway now, and that's the development of a series of opening events to mark the new alignment. And we do this every time. I'll point out that these are all sponsored events. So this isn't Trimet money in so much as it is various entities that want to participate in having these events. But we're trying to do a very broad themed opening event this time. Rather than just a couple things right around the day of the opening, we're actually pulling it back earlier and beginning with a series of lectures and presentations, not only about this project, but about how the Portland region chose to go down the route of light rail transit and how that initial planning and integration with land use has transformed the region. there's a lot of people who never heard of the Mount Hood Freeway or any of the early decisions that the Portland region made, because they've came since then and have just become accustomed to having the system. And what we want to do is help them understand, why Portland chose to do this and the impacts it's had. We think it'll be really fun. There will be some sort of presentation by the architect and designer of the new Tillicum Crossing. I know there will be a lot of interest in that, just how it came to be and understanding the story and the design. So there will be a whole series of events, and then of course the closer we get to the grand opening, the kind of more grand and impressive those events will be. We're still working on that overall program. I'm sure we'll be coming back to you in a couple months when we have a complete calendar of what we want to do, but it's an important part of the program. And so that'll lead us to our grand opening on September 12th, and I'm sure as the sun sets that day, it'll look something like that. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.